How y'all doing? We're going to do a 2010. We're doing head gaskets on this. So pulled out the engine because it's better than doing it down in the car because you never get all the debris. Check this out. There is mud daubers. Put a little nest on the valve curb pan gaskets. Now a lot of times, I'm going to show you all the front here because I had to do this and probably want to chisel those out. I hope I don't. But got all the bolts. They go in all the front timing cover. Got the damper wheel pulley, pulled all those bolts, but this bottom one right here, a lot of times this happens, is that bolt will get stuck. So instead of using a 10 millimeter, or 6 point, my bad, we use a 12.9 millimeter if it's actually that rusted. And then we'll drive it on there with a hammer and a socket extension. Drive it on there and use an impact. Sometimes that comes off that way. I got it this time. Now the problem I'm gonna have, I'm gonna show you the rest of the assembly on this here in a minute, is we gotta do the valve curb pan bolts. Okay, so the 3 top ones I can get, that bottom one right here I can get, and that one is rusted up pretty good, but these usually seize up in the valve cover pan because the gasket goes around on the inside and that catches all the weather. So gotta love that. If I get into that, I'll break it apart and show y'all me busting apart the valve curb pan. The guy will have to go buy some. But we're gonna disconnect the cam angle sensor, spark plug wires, fold that tube out of the way. We disconnect your that's a pressure valve. Opens up your sensor for the oil pressure. We're gonna pull off 4 bolts on each side on the intake. You can see one there, the other 2 are down in there. And then we have one on the back. We're gonna undo this EGR valve. Unbolt it there and unbolt it from the head down here. And we got a knock sensor right here we're gonna disconnect. We gotta disconnect a tube. We already have some stuff disconnected over on this side. We're going to unbolt our wiring harness from there. Well, no, we're gonna unclip this one underneath right here. So there's a little area right there. You just pull a little tab. As long as it comes undone, right underneath there, we'll just unclip it. We got more sensors on this side. Spark plug wires, of course, 4 bolts, and there ain't much to it. Then your crank angle sensor and your other oil pressure sensor also right there. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna get all that off and we'll go into the timing here in just a second and show you what you gotta do there. Basically, time belt job. We're gonna replace the water pump, tensioner, stuff like that. We'll come into it here in just a second. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're just going to break these loose. I went ahead and lined up my time marks right here, lined all them up so my valves do not hit, okay, right here. And then we're going to go ahead, break loose our cam bolts. We already pulled off our damper wheel pulley, damper wheel. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what it was. I'm tired, y'all. Okay. And we're going to pull off our idlers and our tensioner. Now, I usually break all these loose and I'll pop this one out first. This is always the last one you want to put back in before you do when you're doing a timing job. You always put this one back in after the fact because you can actually pull up on the belt and works pretty good. But we're going to go ahead and pull this apart. Let's see what it looks like. We're going in doing cam seals and the front crank seal on this too, and we'll pull off the intake and we'll come back on video. All right, here is the engine without the timing belt, tensioners, and the idlers and the cam pulleys on them. We pulled the intake, forgot to mention 3 things. There is a bolt right here that holds your O2 sensor wires on. Also a temp sensor right here. And there is a 3rd one over here I failed to mention, which is your oil dipstick. You need to get it off there so you can get your head. Now, first thing we're gonna do, well, 2nd, 3rd, whatever. We're gonna get these mud dauber nests off here so we don't get dirt in the valve curb pan or anywhere else that we might actually hit. Now we're going to get these bolts top and bottom. Like I said, these seize up inside with corrosion. That one should come right out. And we're gonna see how hard these are. Get a hard one, I'll tell y'all how I got it out. Sometimes if they're seized real bad after, sometimes I had to break the valve curb pan gaskets, valve cover pans actually. All right, let's get on into this and we'll show you the head gaskets after this. Okay, we got all the valve curb pan bolts but one, including the other side. So here's what we wind up having to do. As you see, I got it broke loose with a pair of vice grips. Thing is, the end is gone. So I took a grinder, I grinded the whole thing off, still couldn't get it. I mean, beat it up and everything. So what I wound up having to do was grind a slot in the bottom to relieve the pressure. As you see, I grinded it all the way to the aluminum, and it just corroded so bad, I had to do this. Now, it's still good because as you look, the valve cover pan gasket is on the inside, so it is not going to hurt it none when you tighten it back down with another bolt, a newer bolt, so let's put it that way. I got used ones, so we're going to put them in there. And then all you do is just break it loose. Didn't hurt it none. It's free now. Spin it out. And we're going to get the other one off, head into the valve, or head into the 6 head bolts, which it's got 3 on top. 1, 2, 3. Look, I learned how to count today. And then we got 3 on the bottom. Now, when you put these in a piece of cardboard or something, so you line these back up, because this bolt right here has to go in the center, and this bolt has to go in the center. It says to reuse the head bolts. I have never done it and never will. So, and never had any problems. Clean the threads good, put some oil back on. We'll get into all that here later on. But put all these, take a piece of cardboard, son, put your 6 holes in it, line them all the way up. You got your top, you got your bottom, and your centers. Put them all in there as they go, and then you'll pull them back out, clean them up one at a time, put them back in the head. And that's how you're going to do that. We'll show you the rest as soon as I get the head gaskets, or the head's actually off, and get my workbench cleaned up apparently, and start cleaning all this up and get ready to reassemble it here very soon. Here's what we got. The main reason I took this thing apart was because it was leaking oil. As you see, it's all over the place. I'm gonna back that up a little bit so you can see. And it's because this black material here, pretty well everybody knows it now, but right here is the other main issue. The guy really wasn't too concerned about the oil because it wasn't using a whole lot, but it was leaking antifreeze. Okay, right here. You got your water jacket. Put this down there in that mess. You got your water jacket going around here. When that black material comes out, it was actually leaking on the outside of the head, which is what happens a lot. But it blew out the black material, as you see on that side, and well, I just flipped it over. And then here is the other side. There's hardly any black material. That's kind of oil too there, but there's hardly any black material right there. So we're replacing this with a Feld Pro. I ain't had no issues out of Feld Pro. Some people have. I think the biggest problem that they have with Feld Pro is they don't go have the head shaved if the engine warped. Okay, if the head's warped because of overheating. This one did not overheat, so we're gonna check the heads, but we ain't gonna have to have them milled down or anything like that. Now we're gonna take this whole surface here, and we'll show you what I'm gonna clean it with. First, we're gonna wipe it off, get all the stuff off, scrape it with a razor blade, get all the hard stuff off that we possibly can. Then, we're coming over here to the heads. We're gonna clean all this off, scrape it as much as we can, easy with a brand new blade. After we do that, get the oil off there so it works better. We're gonna check exhaust valves also with some brake cleaner, but right there is what we use. We use a little die grinder with the finest pad we can find. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and we're gonna hit this real hard up against my vise a couple times. Get it nice and soft, because if not, it'll start tearing up these heads. Yes, it will tear everything off, but you gotta be real easy and run over these heads. I run it full throttle when I'm running it, but I do not push hardly at all. I just run it and try to do the same all the way around everything as I'm doing it. So we're gonna get in there, we're gonna clean that up, and then we're gonna start reassembling. I'll show you all that. Also, there's another thing here. Where this one didn't overheat, I ain't replacing this, but there's O-rings in this jumper. Both sides right here. Take out them 10mm bolts, go down here to Advance or somewhere, match them up, put you some O-rings back in there. I think it's like 1 1/8 or something like that. Or 2 1/8, heck, I don't remember. Either way, match them up, it'll work a lot better. Replace them, put them in there. If you do have corrosion from the aluminum eating up, which it does on the inside surfaces, put you some silicone on there to seal up the gap. Never had an issue. Take it like that with the silicone on there. But I have had them ate up pretty bad. Like I said, this motor's got 180,000 miles, so this ain't this is what junk I get, okay? I get to work on all the stuff that's all corroded, bolts locked up, everything else. Gotta love it. Ain't no doggone parts changer down here at the Subaru dealer or some other dealer. Slap on some parts, and if that don't work, you need a new engine. Yeah, okay, we're good. Quick jabbering on. But also on the brake cleaner, when you put it down in here, what you do is you fill it up. Not all the way, but as much as you can with brake cleaner, and see if it's coming out the exhaust or the intake ports through here. or on the exhaust port back there. And you'll get a little bit most of the time. That's all right. But if it's coming out of there, then you know you got some bad valves. So we got to check this before I put it back together, because this one did have a miss in it. I had a pretty bad miss. Feel like one cylinder miss at the beginning, then it turned into two. All right. Well, we're going to start cleaning this. I'll show you what it looks like after it's cleaned, and we'll get on with the process. Here we are cleaned up with the tool. I still got to take brake cleaner around it and wipe it all off, but also going to spray brake cleaner in there and use a little air wand that I got, well, that I made, might as well say. And I'm gonna stick it up in that hole after I put the brake cleaner in there, run it back and forth, turn it on full throttle, and blow that out. Also, we're gonna pull each piston to top dead center. We're gonna blow brake cleaner around it right there, down in the cylinder, okay, like where the top compression ring is, the piston. And then we're gonna blow it out with air. We're gonna do that on all 4 cylinders. We're gonna do that on all the head bolts, well, the head bolt holes. We're gonna clean all those out. And I already got the other side clean. And now we are checking for any valves that are messed up. So far, it's been sitting here for probably about a minute so far. We have not leaked any. There probably is none. Well, you see none running out of it. I ain't checking the exhaust side because it's a little hard to do. But hard to do because of the camera. It'd flip over and mess everything up. Okay, but either way, everything's looking good. I'm gonna leave this for another 5 more minutes, and we're going to clean this out and start reassembling. And I gotta wipe all this off with brake cleaner too. I'm gonna clean it all up, show you all the head gaskets, how I prepare those to actually go back on the engine, and then we will start assembling it. And I don't know, okay, but start assembling, start putting it back together, reverse process of what we did other than torque specs, and put new bolts in here and there that are no good, rusted too doggone much. All right, we'll get on the next process. We're gonna do torque specs now. I done put on the head gaskets, put in all the bolts. Now, whenever y'all do the cylinders, put a drop of oil in there, run it around with your finger on each one of the cylinders, put a drop on the bolt itself after you clean it. I usually clean it with brake cleaner, blow it with air afterwards, and then put a drop of oil on. Then I use a speed wrench to run it on there with the 14 millimeter. Now these are just 12-point bolts on these, 12-point sockets. We'll get these off, so it ain't nothing special. But basically what we're gonna do is, I already snugged them all up. They're probably about 25 foot-pounds roughly. I didn't check it, I just snugged them with a speed wrench. We're gonna start, and we're gonna do everything. Of course, you do the crisscross. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I'm gonna start at 10-pound increments. So the first one's gonna be 35. Then we're gonna go all the way 10-pound increments, all the way up to 75. We're gonna do 75 all the way around. And once we get, including the 2 center ones, then we're gonna come back and we're gonna do 85, 85, okay? Both those need torque down at 85, outer ones at 75. So then I go back around, check them all at 75, and then do 85 and 85 again. I just like double checking. And then we'll get back on the valve cover pan gaskets, intake, all that. It's the same process as taking it apart, put new gaskets on, cleaned all this up, cleaned my exhaust on the bottom too to put the exhaust gaskets on. And I'll go ahead and show you the timing one more time whenever I put it back together, if y'all really want to see that. But putting on the valve cover pan gaskets after I torque this down. And first thing I do is I put on the intake first, because I will blow, I forgot to mention that, I will blow this out, both the intake ports, blow them out with air, and because it's got a little bit of dirt down in there. So blow them out real good. Then I put my gasket on, get my intake on. That way it's sealed, and if I don't feel like doing anything else on the motor, or if something falls in there, it's gonna stop it because we didn't start on the front, shake everything. So I like putting that on first, okay? Just to make sure nothing falls down in there. And then we're gonna start on the rest of it. We'll see you here in a second. All right, y'all, we're on the timing belt now, and just showing y'all one more time how to time this thing. Turn your pulley up, pulley right there. Make sure you have the arrows and the words so you can read them, and it needs to be rotational that way, because the timing marks will not line up with the timing marks on the engine if you don't have it facing the right way. So we got that one lined up with the line up there. One more time on this one, there's a little notch right there. And then this notch, timing mark, and belt there. So you really ain't gotta have the timing marks on the belt to line it, but it does help. Now I left all these loose. Okay, they're backed out a little bit, including this one, the tensioner. It's still tensioned in, of course. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this pulley right here and hold it up there, and we're going to put it in, which I doubt I can do with one hand. And then we're going to put on the timing cover. But that is how you time one. Ain't nothing to it. One of the easiest motors to work on. And I'll be installing this thing, but that is it on this one. I'll get the cover on all that, which is simple. Just barely tighten these down. Oh, this is 130, I think 132 or 133 foot-pounds. Says it in the manual. And this is either 68 or 72. Everything else is 20. Well, these right here, pretty sure all those are 29. And make sure you check this bolt right here and make sure it's tight, because they have been loose a lot. Well, y'all enjoy. Have a good day. See you on the next one.